Hey Jabbers, we are back with another episode. And this week, Gabby and I are going to just gab about some random topics for you, a little mini episode. And one of the things we wanted to talk about today is brides or couples kind of taking to TikTok and complaining about their wedding, or I think it's kind of twofold, right, Gabby, of like brides complaining about vendors during the planning process and then post wedding as well. We've come across a lot of TikToks, and so we want to talk about it of like these brides are kind of taking to TikTok as like the new Yelp. And we have a lot of thoughts on if it's right, wrong, how they should really approach the situation, and also how vendors should approach the situation as well. So, Gabby, I know you've come across some videos. I have two recently, but I'm curious your initial thoughts and what you've seen.
Well, I think it's kind of split into two different camps, right? One camp is the couples that are complaining about a vendor experience that they're having and or the cost of weddings, right? Like something's going on. And then the other camp is more what I think genuine concern, which is my venue just canceled on me. I'm pissed. And like, absolutely, you need to speak up about that publicly if the venue's not doing things right. So we just had this happen in Nashville. There's a venue that I don't know if they got bought out or what happened, but we got an email as planners. We got an email saying, hey, everybody, the venue is closing down. We will be alerting all of the 2026 couples, but just so you know, don't send anybody to the venue anymore. Like, we're shutting our doors for whatever reason. And then my TikTok starts blowing up on my For You page, where I'm seeing a bunch of brides being like, this Nashville venue just canceled on me. I can't believe it. No. So in that situation, 100%, like, what is the venue doing to make this better for the clients? Like, I don't know how much lead time a lot of these couples had. Some of them had a year. Like, some of them were booked into 2027. That I think, like, you still have time.
So they're like not finishing out any weddings.
don't
They're not like, oh, we're going to finish out this year, but like 2027 isn't happening.
I don't think so. I think from some of the videos that I saw, like some of these brides are like, I have X number of months. Maybe it's this fall. I could be wrong. I need to check my facts because I got a lot of information from all sorts of places. But I think in that situation, yeah, as a couple, I would be pissed. And the thing is though, they're going to go complain on TikTok and this venue's closed anyway. So it's not like they're going to be losing business.
Yeah, it's like that. I don't know. I guess I've never been one to like get on social media and complain about like personal stuff like that. But like, what good does that do? Because the venue's closed, like they could care less, I guess, in the end of it, of like, it's not going to affect their future business.
Yeah. If anything, maybe it's putting pressure on the venue publicly to
Right. Make it right.
Right. To make it right. And I think that's a big wave of this, like, what would you call some kind of social, not activism, but like I think people go to TikTok and go public with certain stories to be backed up by the general public. And it works really well in some cases.
Totally.
And some people, like, they get called out for their BS of treating someone a certain way or doing something that was really wrong. So yeah, it's like Big Brother, eyes everywhere all the time.
I'm curious if like they're getting a full refund or if people are losing deposits, like if they don't even have the money to refund people.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
more. You don't have a client there though.
No, I've worked there in the past, but I don't have a client there. I need to get more information about that story specifically. But in general, like we are seeing brides go and complain. Like I think my biggest one that is frustrating, and I want to know your thoughts on this, is when they go and they talk about how expensive the wedding industry is. And I see in the comments a lot of vendors, like photographers. And there is part of me that's like, yeah, we want to educate these couples, right? Because it's expensive for a reason. Not everyone, I understand, can afford these prices, but there's certain smaller cities that have lower prices. It's different all around the US. But what are your thoughts on like when vendors even do a video that refers to that initial video and go on their own rant about
it? So I came across this last night of a prominent photographer that I follow. He does a lot of education, but he posted a very, I felt like, well done video about how brides typically, could be anybody, but brides typically take to TikTok. And I think it's hard because he was like, these couples are like, I inquired with a photographer. Usually it's photography, unfortunately. I think some other vendors get a bad rap, but I think most are complaining about photography costs. But he's like, they show up and they're like, I am looking for, this high-end luxury experience. But then I got quotes back for like $10,000 and it cost an arm and a leg. And then they kind of follow up with this statement of like, but I'm just looking for, and then they list off a whole laundry list of things, right? And he's like, it doesn't make any sense because you still have all these stipulations, but you're like making it sound like, but it's just a simple, like, I just want candid shots. I don't want pose.
Right.
And in the comments, every photographer is like, do you know that candid shots are like harder to get than pose because you have to have years of experience being trained, like the right lighting, being in those moments to capture like grandpa laughing with
Yeah.
mom or whatever. And
And
it
not get
is,
the double chins when they're laughing and stuff like
yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
I agree with him. I think it's like, why are so many people, and then they like make the industry sound bad, right? Whereas like we're
Right.
overcharging, we're price gouging, and it's not true. It's like most people don't do that with other industries. Like you're not like shopping $1 million homes, but you're like, this is like a cost an arm and a leg, but I just want, marble countertops, a pool in
Yeah.
the backyard for $400,000. Like I guess like there's like a disconnect for me on why people think we're price gouging.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and like, what good does it do? I think you could be like, I don't know. I think his point was like, brides never take accountability for being like, well, I got educated on like what I want is actually really expensive. So now I need to lower my expectations. Cause he also followed up with at the end of the wedding, months go by after they get their gallery back and then they're super disappointed and they're like, this isn't the luxury experience I was hoping for. And it's like, well, yeah, you hired a photographer for $2,000. You gave
Right.
them your inspiration photos and they're not at that level of work. So what were you expecting?
Yeah. I wonder if it's a generational thing. I mean, I'm sure this has been said in many generations, but we've had conversations about Gen Z and the bit of disconnect. Again, this is not I'm not doing a blanket statement for all Gen Z, but what we're experiencing in the wedding industry on both the employing Gen Z people and working with them as our couples, there is a little bit of a disconnect of the world. And I don't know if it's of like the reality of the world. So part of me is like, they grew up with social media where you don't really know what's real and what's not. And these days I keep seeing things and hearing things on TikTok how, this influencer is actually broke, but they pretend to live this $1 million lifestyle, or the documentary about Anna Delvey, who
Yeah.
was not rich, but managed to get her way into these like extreme billionaire socialite kind of groups. Like that kind of stuff. I just wonder if they've just been fooled their whole life and not learned things as they truly are, like the value of a dollar truly, or the hard work that goes into it. Because on the work ethic, we are having sometimes a hard time with Gen Z wanting to do work, right? Because they think it will just come. They can be influencers. Again, not a blanket statement, just from
Right.
some experiences that I've lived through in the last few years. But, not to give them a free pass at all. I do think there needs to be a ton of education for them, but I just wonder if they don't even know.
Right. Yeah. I think I think again, kind of going back to couples just coming online and complaining, I agree with his point of like, why can't you just take ownership of like, oh, I learned some stuff in my
Yeah.
research and adjust expectations, or maybe you raise your budget slightly, but I think it is a wild concept to be like, I don't want to pay that, but I still want everything that's included
Yeah.
with it. And it's like people just don't do that with other industries and somehow, and I think this leads to people being like, well, I said it was a wedding, so now they're charging me a wedding tax. And then
Right.
it's like this whole thing starting again where it's like, I don't know why people think we're like billionaires here. Like a lot of people are so small and like they're still, it's like they're hardly making a decent salary sometimes. And
Yeah.
so I think, I don't know, I think it's just a shitty
Yeah.
a shitty way to approach it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, guess what? It creates conversation and I will say it is good for us as business owners and planners to see what's being said behind our back in a way, like,
Yeah.
but granted, it's public, but what they're actually thinking so that we can also address it if it happens to us in person. Like, if someone inquires and like, wow, loved everything you do, but it's so expensive. And it's like, yeah, because I had to dumpster dive for napkins one time and I have since learned that, like we
Yeah.
put in so much hard work, like you said, that like it's years of experience that have led to us be charging what we charge now. And we
Yeah.
know we're not for everyone. And there are planners and photographers and all that are starting out. And if budget is a must, like non-negotiable, you have to stick to a budget, then yes, like you said, Kari, you have to adjust your expectations. You can't be, what's the expression, champagne taste on a beer budget. Like that's what
Yeah.
people have.
And I think I mean, again, it's all we talk about this all the time. It goes back to education. I think people just don't know, they don't understand. I mean, I even think about my most recent wedding. I was working from 7 a.m. until 2:30 in the morning
Oh
and
my
like
God.
really didn't have a break, you know? I mean, like you can sit down and relax every now and then, like during dinner, but I'm like, that was a long day. And granted, they paid for those hours, but I'm
Yeah,
like, that's a lot of work for one person and a long day. And I don't think people realize like without me there, like none of that would have happened, from like
so
start to
true.
finish so that my clients could just like go back to their hotel room at the end of the night. So,
Right.
like you're paying for way more than I think you realize sometimes. And that is like for our job, I think the harder thing to communicate and is like what we kind of have to sell in a consult, right?
Yeah.
Of like, this is what you're getting. And like, you don't even know it right now, but like,
Yeah.
you're going to be grateful later once you do realize it. But we have to do like that legwork to educate.
That's true. And we have to remember that weddings in general are luxuries. They are a luxury event. You could go get married for like 30, $50, whatever, at the courthouse. So anytime you are having a wedding, I don't care what the budget is, it's an optional event. It's a luxury event. And you have to kind of go into it with that mindset a little bit. And maybe people forget that. So we are offering as planners a white glove service. Like if you're doing full service planning, like you said, Kari, no matter how many hours it takes, we're doing it and we're cleaning everything up at the end. Like we are, yeah, a concierge service type of thing. And the hours that go into a full service wedding, I think we calculate is like 300 to 600, depending on how many days it is. But that is a lot,
Yeah.
a
And
lot.
I think there's a lot that my clients have never known about or seen because even
Yeah.
again, most recently, just because it's top of mind, I'm like, I spent hours behind the scenes going back and forth with the rental company because things were like inaccurate or like I realized there was a mistake on the order. And I'm like, they
Yes.
never would have picked that up or noticed it. And then it would have been too late on the day of. And so it's even like small stuff like that where there was probably like a whole week of me going back and forth with the rental company trying to be like, we need to get this updated. Wait, are these dimensions correct? Did you guys look at this properly? And so yeah, I just think it's hard because going back to us, I think even a lot of I think brides complain about how much a wedding planner costs, but
Yeah.
then for us, unfortunately, it's like too little too late, right? They hire a
Yeah.
planner who didn't do shit on their wedding day and then they regret and they're like, I was so stressed out all day.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we tried to educate you ahead of time, but
And like, yeah. And you know what? The alternative to any of these vendor services is to DIY it. But with every DIY, comes, like you said, Kari, a lot of things that you don't know that vendor does on the day. Florals, for example, you know how much time goes into processing flowers. The hell you're going to put a rose with thorns and a bunch of leaves in your vase? Absolutely not. And how to even put them together in a shape.
Right.
We can't do that.
Yeah.
And I just think, like you said, that stuff is not shown. I will say, okay, the trend of having vendors getting their own content creators to show behind the scenes is brilliant. I'm loving it because I do think it's going to help ease clients into realizing, oh my God, look at everything they do. And I feel like we make those videos really aesthetic, but I really believe we could show the really nitty-gritty parts of the wedding day, and then clients would be like,
Right.
wait, this is wedding planning?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. There is I saw this bride on TikTok last night, which this was like a really interesting complaint. I don't know if there's like not legal things around it, but she basically sued her florist. It must be like after the fact because I'm like, I don't know, maybe like, could she talk about it prior? Could she not? Can she talk about it now? I assume. But she was showing the proposal of what the florals were going to be that the florist sent her around her sweetheart table and then what the actual day of looked like. And I will admit, it was pretty awful. Like, it was nowhere near because she also showed a follow-up photo of all of the leftover flowers in the back that were like not used, not processed, they were trashed, which was truly insane to me. Like, any florist I know maybe has like a bucket or two left and they're like taking them back to the studio. But I will say the caveat with that is like they always bring extra and everything looks the way it's supposed to look, right? And so this was really fascinating because I'm like, I wonder how that florist handled it to obviously get sued, right? Did they not take responsibility for it? Were they just like, whatever, we delivered? Because I'm like, to get sued and then to get drug on Instagram, TikTok is wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see that one too. I liked the bride. She was like, Exhibit A. I'm like, oh, girls prepared with the receipts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And that's a fear that I think a lot of other countries maybe don't have. But in the US, getting sued is a thing. Like, people sue people all the time. And it's really scary as a small business owner. And I think obviously communication always via paper trail is super important. But to your point, I read a few of the comments. Some florists were chiming in being like, well, she was probably understaffed, and not the bride's problem. I'm sorry. That is a you problem. You need to find people and you need to make it right. And I think if to avoid being sued, because with the legal fees and everything, that will always be more expensive than just giving a full refund. So I really hope the refund was a possibility, as opposed to also hopefully the bride didn't say, yeah, I want a full refund and I'm going to sue you.
I wanted to comment and be like, where was your planner?
Yeah.
Who were they? Were they not present? Like, they didn't notice? I think
that's true.
I mean, not that like a planner could really step in to be like, let's fix this fully, but I feel like it could have been like, this isn't anything like it. Why are all these flowers still here? Like, you need to get this up to scale, you know?
I feel like I think that people are saying, I mean, again, who knows, that she ran out of time to finish filling them. And that's hard because, like, to your point, a planner, we're not watching the florist build on site, although they should come mostly built from my experience. But
yeah.
So it's not like I'm like, ooh, it's noon. It feels like the percentage of flowers that are done is not right. So, but yes, when they leave and you're like, oh my God, guests are coming in, this is sparse. This is not looking as full as the inspo.
And I will say, this is why, as planners, we advocate for our clients to hire the people we recommend.
Yes.
Because it avoids a whole host of issues. And like, we know everyone's going to show up and like do their best job and be the best team to work with.
It's so true. And on that note, maybe that's where the parting words of wisdom here is, if you're listening to this and you are a planner and you're having these issues maybe with some of the vendors and then clients are taking to TikTok, push to recommend your own vendors, because these are really great examples to say, listen, I can vouch personally for this vendor, this photographer, florist, whatever. I don't want you to end up as a horror story on TikTok.
100%.
But no, this was a great conversation. We always talk more than we always have more to say than what we think when we start out. Jabbers, if you'll do us a solid by giving us a 5-star review and rating on Apple Podcasts, that would mean the world. And on Spotify, if you are able to, we love reading your comments. And it's so fun to see that some of you are listening and you have found us in real life. Like we've been approached or we've gotten emails from you or DMs saying that you love listening to the podcast. So we really appreciate it. It means a lot. Shout out to all the international listeners. We have a variety of people all over the world that are tuning in. So that's so fun to see that. But otherwise, we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.